How's it going, everyone? Afar here. Welcome to Heliopolis Radio. Thank you all for tuning in. We're continuing on with our personal vlog series, and today's, I guess, maybe I like to say, the thought that came to mind was the truth and solitude, and the reason why I actually decided to talk about that instead of addiction, which I've been doing in the last few podcasts, is because solitude actually coincides with learning how to confront addiction and come to terms with it in a safe way, obviously. And so, what I've realized is that in today's world, being in solitude is actually a very rare phenomenon, unless your circumstances are quite unique. And I feel like more specifically when it comes to battling whatever type of internal dilemmas you have, a good portion of it is faced externally, and the aid of others is definitely needed. But I find that the most important portion of any type of resolution comes in a deep place of solitude. And I realize a lot of the stresses that we face in life is because we're not given permission to our own solitude. Simply because the society we live in, inherently, the way we do things is quite invasive. The idea of privacy and, you can say personal space in quotation marks. And I mean personal space in a very, self-reflective sense, not like you're non-inclusive and people should fuck off. No, I'm talking about personal space where you have time to get clarity on your thoughts and really evaluate the state of your mind and psyche if you're in a state to do so, obviously. And so, another thing that made me realize the power of solitude is actually our inability to to transmutate loneliness into solitude. And what I mean is, a lot of the times when life leaves us lonely, we fall into despair because of society has conditioned us to solely depend on externality and essentially the indulgence of connectedness, which is a good thing, in terms of having progressive relationships and successful communities and whatnot. But what it does is it also cripples an individual's ability to truly discern what's external and what's internal, unless you're highly skilled, mentally astute individual. And so I realized in periods when I've been left in loneliness, what it has revealed to me has been my inner capability of being able to transmutate loneliness into its truest and most potent meaning, which is solitude and the beauty in it. And so, more specifically, when it comes to facing addictions, a lot of the time there's just so much going on externally. We never get to truly realize our internal mechanisms and what role they have in propelling us to be in certain situations and places. Obviously, when you're going through shit, it's also not maybe the safest thing to be on your own. But at some point in time, it's good to be on your own, simply to find a bit of inner strength and inner stability to be able to kind of confront whatever your internal issues are, without having to put anyone else through that ringer too. People only need to indulge you so far before they have to, deal with themselves ultimately, and that's a reality for everyone in this life, especially if you're human. And so, I think solitude is the one place, not one place, but the one circumstance that really, with time and dedication and a lot of patience and perseverance, that begins to draw, I believe personally, the best out of an individual. And more specifically, not just the best out of an individual, but it develops a capability within the individual to engage whatever circumstances or situations that they'll have to engage on whatever they have to do in life, whatever they have to face, to put it simply. And so, that was kind of the thing that came to my mind, is the power of solitude, and how in order to really harness it, we first need to transmutate loneliness, which is sometimes the absence of everything that we inherently are attached to. Not in a bad way. I'm trying to put this because I do firmly believe in the power of community, and how it's very important to be connected with others, especially if you want to get anywhere in this life. But I think it's better to be connected to others with a stronger sense of inner clarity, so that when you go and engage with other people, you're not destructive. You have a certain degree of self-awareness, and more importantly, you're capable of being content within, by yourself. The social pressures that we encounter daily in today's society make it very difficult and for individuals to be content with themselves. A lot of the time, the hype, the vibe, everything, it's all in the external, and it's all with the crowd, and it's hard to get anywhere, by yourself. Not to get anywhere by yourself, but be okay by yourself, because you always feel like you're not going to be at your peak or good enough, simply because you're not part of the hype. But a lot of the time, you get part of the hype, but then, when the hype ends, what you have is a compounded amount of inner problems that you've never ever attended to, never ever looked at, never evaluated. And so, while the hype was great, it's kind of been undermined, or it's been destroyed, simply because what was behind it is not self-sustaining. It's all built on group consensus, and group community, and all that stuff, and group think. And I don't know, I just think that a lot of our society's problems would disappear. More specifically, our own personal problems would become easier to handle if we had been given a certain amount of solitude. Personal time to ourselves, obviously, if we're in a healthy enough state to do so, simply to embrace what it means to be within yourself without anything else. Because ultimately, that's how we come into this life, that's how we leave. And so I think there's a beauty to it. But also, what I've also learned personally is that there's a balance to this shit. You do need community, you do need to be able to connect with others, simply because our life, I think by divine law, necessitates that we work and form bonds with one another to at least survive and to be progressive in some way. What would be a great way of supplementing that law of life would be those who have understood the power of solitude in order to be able to contribute to society without any distortions of their, without any distortions of their own inner state of being, without any confusion, with a bit more clarity. And the reason why I say this is not telling people they should do it, but I guess more recently in my life, I've realized that's a very fundamentally important thing to do in any environment, especially work. Work is where, everything has to flow in a certain way. Things have to get done. And things get done when everyone is clear within themselves, who they are, what they do, and what they won't do, And, I think when there's that inner, groundedness and consensus about who you are and what you do and how you operate, you can only, team dynamics, group dynamics, societal dynamics could be a whole lot more simple and straightforward. Obviously, this is all kind of philosophical and theoretical. It's not, the reality is not that way, unfortunately. But the reality is also problems need to be solved, and so this might be one of those interesting things where if we all incorporated a certain amount of solitude, time allocated to be alone with ourselves, I think we'll be better faced when handling things, particularly like addiction. Where we have the time to evaluate ourselves and really investigate our inner sensations, our inner mechanisms, our inner tendencies, and truly, without fearing, without any judgment or perception or societal influence from the outside, you can just honestly evaluate yourself. And the only person who can be truthful with you is you. Other people can say things, but you might not even receive it. But when you talk to yourself, after a long time of practice, eventually you start being able to have an honest and open dialogue with yourself. Better than you might even have with anyone else that you come across, and let's say very special individuals, like a mentor, a guru, or a authority that you deeply respect. But again, that's not for everyone, and not everyone has access to that. Sometimes you gotta work on it on your own. Life sometimes creates those circumstances. But I hope I didn't ramble too much. To summarize, what I was really trying to get to the gist of is that there's power in solitude, and loneliness is simply solitude that is awaiting transmutation. And so when we're lonely, sometimes it's also a good opportunity to use that loneliness to actually better ourselves. I'm not saying that you should live in solitude and fuck everyone else type thing, but when you're given the opportunity, as rare as it is in today's world, it's truly something that I personally starting to realize is so essential to our peace of mind and our ability to navigate this life. So let me know what you guys think. And again, solitude is also unhealthy. We've seen circumstances, and unfortunately, extreme solitude can lead to the most detrimental of circumstances for individuals, which even propel them to do, fucked up things. And so, let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you guys transmutate your loneliness into solitude, because it's not easy to be alone. The hype is nice. It's good to have someone. It's good to have friends and everything. It really is. It's just fucking difficult when you have to be on your own, and you want to face that really well. Not completely losing your inability and trust, and your peace. So have a blessed rest of the week and weekend, and see you in the next podcast. Thank you.